Hi, my name's Michael Wise, CEO and founder of OmniEffect, and we thought we'd introduce you to Universal Platform by just simply using it. So, in this presentation, I'm going to walk through a creation of a spreadsheet and download some information from my LinkedIn into what is Dropbox. So to achieve that, we need to log on to Universal. So I can simply open up a new browser tab here in Google Chrome and then log on to our platform. Here is my user and my password can be entered in simply and just click login. Once you're in Universal, you're greeted with, depending on your user permissions of course, a range of menu items for you to carry out activities whereupon you can integrate the world around you in your business, your organization, or just between your friends. So what we're going to do here today is be able to carry out a task where, say for example, you wanted your LinkedIn information in a simple spreadsheet put onto Dropbox. It sounds pretty achievable, and in your mind it should be. So what we have here is a platform that's web interface based, which allows you to achieve that. To start, we need to be able to go and create all of the necessary objects for us to enable connecting to Dropbox and LinkedIn. To do that, we select Interface Manager, and where we begin is by giving it credentials. So to do that, we simply select User Credentials, and then from the drop-down here, which we can then select Dropbox, and then we can go off and create a LinkedIn or a credential. If you select Dropbox, I've pre-created one here already, and what you can see is that it contains all of my details ready for an OpenAuth credential. From there, I can also access LinkedIn. I've also likewise created a new LinkedIn OAuth credential, thus by simply drop down and LinkedIn, and then within the LinkedIn credential provided my details. All user credentials with inside Universal Platform are encrypted through AES 256 base encryption. We also have further proprietary standards for managing internal passwords and encryption with inside the database. Once I've created credentials, then I need to be able to connect to the various systems. To do that, I go off and create connectors. Given that each system is proprietary, meaning I have to know how to access each system and pull data from it using their technology, we've provided you with simple what we call connectors. So to add another connector which uses that credential, I simply select from the drop down and then choose Dropbox or choose from a list of many connectors that we've provided for you. For folks that are implementing with our on-demand system, they can choose as many of these connectors that they've purchased from us. In the future, we'll be offering the ability to be able to download and purchase from an online store, which will self-install into your Universal Platform instance. In order to make LinkedIn and Dropbox work, I have to add the connector and then configure it. Configuration is straightforward. We simply give it a name, and then we give it the base user credential that I want to be able to talk to Dropbox on. From there, I select various methods that Dropbox offers and configure those. So Dropbox, as you would imagine, allows you to copy files, create folders, get files or files, get revisions of files, move files, remove files, and so on. You can also search and upload. For today, I really only need get and upload. And so what I have done is simply enabled each of these in order to be able to use them. I can then be able to go and completely configure how we're going to go and get file information from Dropbox. I can then also override each of the configuration parameters and simply be able to offer that as a very cut down and simple connection mechanism. Also, with everything that's defined with inside universal platform, we have a level of security. So indeed, I can cut down all of the methods, I can cut down all of the description about just accessing Dropbox, and then leverage this by granting it to a group of users who simply need to be able to put files in Dropbox or pull files from Dropbox. Likewise with LinkedIn, you need only create a new LinkedIn connector and then be able to access LinkedIn by selecting the configuration for the connector. Here is LinkedIn, and it's configured for my usage. I've given it my base user credential for use throughout all of the methods, and then using the methods, select which one I want to be able to interact with LinkedIn on. LinkedIn also gives you a detailed set of APIs which you can interact with it, but what we've done is hidden all of that magic behind verbs. So you need only know that you can get the current user, invite a person, post a network update, search for things, or even just send a message. So for today, I really only need get connections for user. So essentially what I want to know is the list of people who are connected to myself. So I can give it a name, I give it a description, and then I fill out the parameters that are required. Note that I can also make this overridable. Now that I've given myself a credential, I've given myself the ability to connect to a system, the next step is to be able to concert or make it do something. So to achieve that, via our platform manager capability, we have a concept called pipelines. Pipelines share an amazing similarity to workflows, except our pipelines are a little bit different from just a standard workflow, allowing you to organize and connect and structure and sequence a set of steps that you would like to occur. So in order to understand it, let's have a look. So if I add a new pipeline, I can simply start out by naming it. So we'll call this Dropbox Social Spreadsheet. From there, I can then select the Editor tab. The Editor tab is just a way for us to be able to construct the pipeline. I can select Maximize and give myself the maximum amount of screen real estate to start working with my objects. Now the first thing to do is I need to get access to my LinkedIn contacts. So on the left-hand pane here we have Universal, which is a set of standard activities that can be carried out by Universal for you. For example, compression, collision, binding, debugging, decision making, template generation, and so on. But for today we need to go to our connectors. All of the connectors that were defined previously, their methods which I've asked to be available to me, are now available on this left-hand side pane. From here I can then simply go down and find where my LinkedIn one was. So there's LinkedIn, and get connections for user. In order to use it, I click left mouse button and just drag it onto the area here, and then when I select it, the right hand pane updates for operations that are available to me to configure this particular node. When using pipelines, we don't in effect use graph language, so this would be a node. Now I can immediately press save, or I could have just pressed run in order to execute that. So what I'll do is just press run. Universal goes away and thinks about it. It then provides us with detail about what happened, how long did it take, a log to give us an indication if there was anything going wrong, which we can then filter. But more importantly, what our pipelines do, it provides us a context. So for every action that's being executed within the pipeline, there is a background activity going on where it deposits all of the data or results of whatever it did when it was run in sequence. So if I select the data here, I can see that it's produced a list of detailed information for me, which is the results of calling get connections for user from LinkedIn. Not only that, you can have multiple versions or styles of way data can be produced by this particular node. So we've now got access to my LinkedIn information, which is all of my connections for my user. The user was understood to be the one which is provided by this user credential that we had set, and also had set against the connector itself. The next step, I guess, is to be able to write the spreadsheet. So in order to do that, we have pre-configured a connector which is all about documents. And it's a matter of just simply dragging write spreadsheet across to the palette here and then connecting it up. When I select write spreadsheet, on the right hand side here I have to configure it. So I have to say, well, what sort of spreadsheet is it going to create? Well, I wouldn't mind an XLS. The sheet name itself, well, it's LinkedIn people, so I'll just call it LinkedIn. The name of the spreadsheet, we'll call it social. Now, I'm also interested when I write data into it, whether or not I include header information or what cells and rows do I want information to be written into from the spreadsheet's perspective. So likewise, I can then execute that. It will go and grab all of my connections for a user and then attempt to write a spreadsheet. Here in the context, again, we see that now building up a picture of every piece of data that we need. And indeed, if we click on the spreadsheet, it's produced a file. The file here is of name social XLS, which was what I asked for that node to produce. Now, if I was wanting to fill that spreadsheet with information, what's different in our pipeline technology is that simply traversing from node to node is not enough. Indeed, if the node was programmed such that it would consume data from the previous node, that's possible. But what we do in the Universal Platform is explicitly say, in order to achieve that, we can select a bind activity. So from this particular node, I want it to deposit information into this node. And to do that, we use a bind. So you can drag from the user endpoint into the spreadsheet node and then be able to bind on what topic. So I really wanted the list information coming from connections for user going into write spreadsheet and its data. So if I save and now run that, the spreadsheet should be filled with information. However, at this stage, we can't see anything because it's all happening in the cloud. None of this information is real. None of this has actually happened until we take it somewhere so we can see it. So the last step of this is really to be able to get it onto Dropbox so I can get access to that information. So again, I select from my connectors. I go down and find Dropbox. And I see there's upload file. So I'll make some space. I'll drop upload file in. I'll reconnect my world. Upload file then accepts parameters. So I'll just say examples for the folder I want it to go into. I'll then say override as true, so if you find any file that does it, overwrite what you're doing. So likewise with the data in spreadsheets is similar to what we were trying to achieve with now writing files. So I can take from this outlet port from write spreadsheet and then be able to give it to the upload file. And we're going to bind on files and files. So what should be happening here is that we're connecting to LinkedIn and grabbing all my connections. We're binding based on data and inputting that into the write spreadsheet. The write spreadsheet is building up a spreadsheet name of LinkedIn, a sheet name of LinkedIn, a spreadsheet called Social XLSX, and then it's simply going to upload that to Dropbox into a folder called Examples, using all of my credentials. Now I can press save at this point and then press run. Now all of this, whilst it's going on, is occurring in the cloud. So there are no files involved here at all, utilizing cloud services. Again, we see that each of the nodes have deposited information for us about what they've done. So likewise, we've got list data, the spreadsheet has its file information, and hopefully upload has given us a status of true, and it's also returned to us information that's relevant to us from Dropbox. So if we traverse off to Dropbox now, by simply opening up the Dropbox folder, we should see examples as presented to us, and that social XLS is available to us. Further, we notice that all of the information from my LinkedIn is now been deposited into a sheet called LinkedIn. So this is how we do things in Universal. It's all about being able to create connections, objects and things that can be concerted into a workflow-like behavior using our pipelines. So I can now save and close that. The really interesting thing is that I can run this as many times as I like and it will repeatedly create that spreadsheet. Furthermore, using our information bus, you can then create a totally new job to be able to run that on a schedule if you desire it. Or, if you wish, message the information out such that someone knows that you've created a spreadsheet. But more on that later. For now, what I've shown you is some of the power of what Universal is about. Being able to access your information and free up information. And that fits with everything that we think. That information should be free. A multi-user way of being able to get at information without the need for developers. Till next time, I'm Mike Wise. Thanks for listening.